everybody. Welcome to another segment of Smarterfan podcast, where we bring you behind the veil of sports, business, and life. I'm Joe, and this is Barry. What's going on, Barry?
Man, I'm so excited. I was watching the CU Buff game, the nail biter with Baylor. It's just
Mm,
wonderful weekend, wonderful weekend. Going back again for another weekend. Just excited, exciting football season, college and
mm,
pro. And so, this is my favorite time of year. This is my favorite time of year, good buddy. So I'm feeling
definitely.
good. How you feeling? I think you look younger tonight. What's going on? What's going
Well, other
on?
than the Cowboys embarrassing themselves, I'm all right.
The only thing I've happened, I'm not even gonna start. Yep, 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 yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, don't get me started. But
Yeah.
what's the news on Tiger Woods these days?
Man, Tiger is such a fascinating character of how he
Hmm.
burst on the scene of golf as a child
Hmm.
prodigy on the Johnny Carson show, doing
Yeah.
all kinds of tricks and just very. I've always followed him, but because I grew up around golf. My
Mhm.
other brothers were caddies and all that good stuff. And so I've always grown up around it. So I've always had a love for the game.
Mm.
And just, you know, bursting onto the golf scene, which there are not many people who look like us, you know,
Mhm.
and there's a certain mentality. And here to put insult to injury, he's a kid beating
Right,
pros,
right.
competing with pros, right?
Yeah.
And that's a lot to take on. But his ability to win, ability to dig it out of the mud, and beat pros. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
At a very young age, and just the combination of that. I've even got pictures and posters I've created in my house with just him and his father because
Yeah.
Earl is such a fascinating character.
Yeah.
War
Yeah.
veteran
Mhm.
again, teaching his son this game. And,
Yeah.
Earl grew up when segregation was segregation. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
yet teaching his son this game at a high level, the mindset remind me very much of that, Richard Williams and the Williams girls, Serena, you know,
Yes.
and
Yes.
and that's probably I'm probably more of a Tiger fan because of his father and the
Mhm.
relationship between him and his father and how Tiger has so skillfully navigated that world of golf.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And,
Definitely.
and when people
Definitely.
hate him, visit up in his face and not, but never let it take him out of his game.
Nope.
You know,
Nope.
and I just wanted to talk about it because as much as I'm a Tiger Woods fan, I never saw his induction into the Golf Hall of Fame.
Mm.
And I'll
Right.
give you part two next week. But he said this, and I'll follow up next week. He said, if it wasn't for my parents taking a second mortgage on their house to pay for me to play, there would never be a Tiger Woods. I'll leave it
Right.
there. I'll leave it there
All
until next week.
right. So last week we touched on memorabilia. And
Yeah.
yeah, man, we're gonna delve a little further into that, and I'll bring in our special guest, Jeff Santiago, to expound more on that.
Awesome. Awesome. We get a round two with Jeff. There he is. How you
Hello,
doing, sir?
gentlemen. Thank you for having me back.
Absolutely.
Definitely,
If nothing else
definitely.
but to look behind you and see all the stuff I wish I had in my house.
We had a really good time last week, and I had a
Yeah,
ton of
you did
friends and
too.
family and coworkers all watching, and
Nice.
yeah, it was fun. Fun.
You got some good
Looking forward
feedback?
to today.
No, I just got a couple of questions, and I'm curious as are there Is there a big issue with false signatures?
Oh my God,
Uh,
that is huge. Not just well, if you think about it, traditionally in society, if there's money to be made in something, it's always going to bring the greed and the dark side of human nature. And sports memorabilia is not immune to that. There have been, ever since the boom in the late 80s, early 90s, where people started realizing how much money there was to be made in buying and selling autographs. There have been forgers and forgery rings. There was actually an operation that was done by the FBI in the late 90s called Operation Bullpen, and it was one of the largest forgery rings in the country, and they confiscated millions and millions of dollars in forged items. There were certain people that had gotten so good at forging, like Joe DiMaggio, Mickey Mantle, Michael Jordan, Muhammad Ali, all the top people, that it was rampant. And I got burned a few times buying things that were, I bought something at one of my kids' school auctions. They had like a charity thing, and I bought this big picture of Muhammad Ali over Sonny Liston. The second fight. Beautiful thing. I mean, the thing was gorgeous, and no one bid against me, so I got it for a decent price, but it was still several $100s. And here I thought I had a Muhammad Ali autograph on this beautiful picture. And, what I had was a frame, a really expensive, really nice frame, and a bogus autograph, because not only were they were making bogus signatures, but they were also making fraudulent certificates. So even if you had a
wow.
certificate of authenticity, those were being forged as well. So this is a
Wow.
huge thing. And there have been counterfeit cards. I know that for a while there were a bunch of counterfeit Michael Jordan cards out there. So you name it. I mean, it's if there's money to be made, some criminal is going to figure out a way to rip people off. So yes, there is a big problem, Joe. It's gotten better because now we have a lot of companies that do holograms, and they a lot of people won't buy something unless it's been authenticated by a third party, and it's the signature authentication is on their database. So a lot has been done to clean it up, but for a good 10-15 years it was like the wild west.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. So what type of memorabilia is the best to collect?
And I touched on this last time. It's whatever you like. Now, I'll
Ooh.
tell you that in baseball, you can't go wrong with a professional baseball. They display beautifully. They don't take up a lot of room. Um, and what I mean by professional baseball is, like, you can go to a sporting goods store and buy like a cheap knockoff ball, non-professional ball. But then when you get that signed and you take it home, the Mickey Mantle will start looking like, you know, the signature just like disappears, right? So you want to get a professional ball. You want to put it in a cube and keep it away from sunlight. Sunlight is your enemy. My room there's no light in there. The windows are blacked out. There's very little fluorescent lighting, because light is your enemy. Light and water, obviously. Uh, but so you really want to get an item that is a professional item. Like, you want a pro basketball, you want a pro football. You got to spend a little bit extra, but the signatures will look nicer and it'll hold its value better.
Boy, that's a
But then
great tip.
again, you could be like me, and what you're seeing right now is what you call an oddball item, right? So most people will get signatures and they'll collect the traditional stuff that I just mentioned to Joe, right? So professional baseball, football, basketball. I've always felt that since my thing is always displaying my collection and my collectibles, I wanted to make it entertaining, and I wanted to, if I could, I wanted to get something that resonated with the player, that identified the player and his career. And I read in a book, and this item that you're seeing right now is an old hair dryer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to say, like, why is this? Why are we even talking about this? Well, I read in a book somewhere that Joe Pepitone in the late 60s, if you remember, he was one of the first guys that started to grow his hair long, during
Yeah.
the hippie days, right? And the
Oh.
legend has it that he was the first athlete or professional, at least professional baseball player, to actually bring a hair dryer into the locker room.
Oh, wow.
That's
Wow.
the story. That's the legend.
Yeah, I
So
remember hearing that.
yeah. So I saw that Joe was going to be doing a show, and I said, I want to get him to sign a hair dryer.
Oh, wow.
Everybody said, like, that's crazy. Why? I told them the story, and then when you tell them the story, they're like, wow, that's pretty cool. And then I've thought to myself, Joe might have signed up 1,000 balls and
Mm-hmm.
1,000 pictures, but how many hair dryers has he signed?
True. True.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I went to I got a hair dryer, like a Goodwill or something, an old hair dryer. That's like, that hair dryer is like a Gillette hair dryer from like the 70s, right? Maybe early 70s. And I took it to the show. And, like, I don't know if you guys know, but Joe Pepitone was not, he wasn't the friendliest fellow at shows. He was a little grumpy. So I'm like saying to myself, is he gonna think this is funny, or is he gonna, like, tell me to, get out? And I said to him, Mr. Pepitone, I know you used you were the first guy to use the hair dryer. Can you please sign my hair dryer? First hair dryer in the majors, and he did it. And
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
unfortunately, that one, that I've had that thing for like a good 25 years, so it's starting to fade a little bit. And unfortunately, Joe's not here with us anymore. But that got me
Right.
to thinking, wow, I want to get stuff that's unique. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, I have Muhammad Ali on a glove. Like, I wouldn't, like, somebody like an iconic person, I wouldn't spend a ton of money to get something ridiculous signed, right? So I have my, my Ali glove, and I have Pele on a soccer ball. And so I have the run of the mill regular stuff, so to speak. But my oddball stuff is the best. It's the most fun. Here's another one. And this one, I was a little scared as well, because this is a big jar of Vaseline signed by the greatest spitball pitcher of all time, Gaylord Perry.
Oh,
Well,
wow.
if you guys remember, Gaylord Perry used to, like, in his, when he used to be on the mound, he would start touching himself, right?
Yes.
Touch his
Yes.
hat, he'd touch his glove, his uniform, his glove. And the legend has it is that he was loaded up with Vaseline. Like, he had Vaseline, like, hidden
Oh
all
yeah.
over his body. And this was
Yeah.
before the time when, the umpires would check the pitchers and all of that stuff. So he
Oh.
notoriously was, like, lathered in Vaseline, right?
Yeah.
And he was doing a show, and I was like, man, I gotta get a big tub of Vaseline. I gotta see if he'll sign it for me. So I'm online. All these people, everybody's got baseballs and gloves and, the normal stuff. And I'm holding a jar of Vaseline. Most people got it, right? They're like, oh, I get it. I get it. That's pretty cool. And so I got up to him. He was also not the friendliest fellow either. He was kind of grumpy. But he knew it. I think this one he signed a few, right? Because he was not surprised. But he signed it. It's a nice signature. It says Gaylord Perry Hall of Fame, 1991 or whenever he was inducted. And the best thing is when I get these things signed and I come off the line and people start looking at me and thinking, man, I should have done that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the most recent one that I did, and I know you guys have a picture of it, is you guys are you guys familiar with the Nugenics commercials
Oh, well,
that
Frank
Frank
Yeah,
Thomas.
Thomas does?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Well, Nugenics is a pharmaceutical company or a drug company that has like this man formula, it's actually called a sexual vitality booster. So the commercials are all full of innuendo, Frank Thomas is like, he's in his 40s and hey, Frank, you look great. What are you doing? And he's like, oh, I take Nugenics.
Mhm.
And the catchphrase is like, you'll feel good, but she'll like it too.
Mhm,
Right.
mhm.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's always that innuendo on there. So I was waiting for a Frank Thomas show. I'm waiting. Exactly. So I was waiting for Frank Thomas to do a show, and I went and I bought a bottle of Nugenics.
Mm,
And this was one where nobody at this show was having him sign this. But everybody has seen that commercial,
mhm.
you
Uh-huh.
know? So
Yeah.
I get up to the table where Frank is, and the guy who takes the item, he starts laughing, right? Because usually you have to hand like your autograph ticket to
Mhm.
someone, and then they hand the item over to the
Right.
athlete, and the guy is just like he is like cracking up, right? So, and then Frank grabs the box and he starts laughing. So now everybody's having a great time with it, right? So
Yeah.
he signs it for me, and as I'm walking away, he goes, and she'll like it too. So I
That's
walk
good.
off the line with the
That's good.
Nugenics box,
That's
and
good.
everybody around is like, "I can't believe you got him to sign that. I can't." And I was like, "Why not? I mean, you got to have a little bit of a sense of humor if you're doing that type of commercial, and that's the product you're endorsing." And so I have a Nugenics
True.
box signed by Frank Thomas.
That is amazing. That
That
is
is.
amazing. That
Now,
is
if you look in, and I know this is a sports show, guys, and I apologize, but I also like to do things I also deal in pop culture and in the
sure.
non-sports world.
Sure.
You guys,
Yeah,
are you
yeah.
guys you guys are familiar with Danny Trejo, who is he's known as Machete
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. All
in the
those
Robert
movies.
Rodriguez movies and all of
Yeah.
those. Well,
Yeah.
he was doing a show. This was last year, and I was like, "What can I have Danny Trejo sign?" Right? The guy's all tattooed. He was in jail, and he's like this real tough guy. And I was like, "All right, well, his name is Machete, which in Spanish is a machete."
Yep.
So I went to
Right.
like the Halloween store, and I got a plastic machete, and I had to sign it in
Oh.
red. So that actually says Danny Trejo, and it says Machete don't text. And I guess that's like a famous line in one of his movies.
Okay.
And he
Mm.
signed it in red. I mean, I thought I thought it was great. He loved it. Uh,
Yeah.
and you know, I've got a machete signed by Machete.
Mm.
Great,
Uh,
great
So,
stuff.
and you guys, for a second there, you actually put up a picture of an 8x10. And Barry, I think you're going to like this because
Okay.
in the mid 80s, I think, late 70s, mid 80s, there were these blue bonnet commercials where they would
mm.
have athletes
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
wearing blue bonnets. Now,
Oh, yeah.
most people, if you've got the opportunity to have Mickey Mantle and Willie Mays to sign a picture,
Yeah.
are gonna have them in their uniforms.
Yeah. You're right.
Not me.
Interesting.
This is an 8x10 from that commercial where they are eating corn with bluebonnet margarine on it,
Mm.
and it's signed by Mickey and
Wow.
and Willie.
That's
That's oddball.
amazing.
That's oddball. And then you
Yeah.
then you also have like the really really fun stuff. Goose Gossage, right?
Yep,
One
the
of the
goose.
best nicknames. I mean, most people don't even know that his name is Richard, right? Everybody
Right.
calls him Goose, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm like, man, Goose, what can I get? What can I do? I mean, everybody's got balls and all of that stuff. So I'm saying to myself, I wonder if he'd sign a bottle of Grey Goose.
Oh wow, that's wow. Oh
And the
wow.
answer is yes. The good
Mm.
story behind this is that he was doing a show with Greg Nettles.
Mm.
Mm.
So they were sitting at the autograph table right next to each other. And here I come with my bottle of Grey Goose. And Nettles wanted me to open it so we could get some drinks. He was like, crack that open and let's have some drinks.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously you can't do that in public in a show. But it was, I mean, him and Gossage were just laughing, and and I mean that beautiful signature on there. It says Goose Gossage, Hall of
Yeah.
Fame 2008. And what's great about this is that it's got the the Grey Goose bottle. It's got the frosted glass,
Yeah.
so it's like the signature is perfect. I mean, they should actually sell that with the signature on it.
Yeah, they should.
Mm. Yeah.
They
Yeah.
really should.
Right?
Definitely.
So so I think did we get everything? I think we talked about all the oddball stuff that I've got other stuff, but these are the highlights, so to speak.
No,
So
this is
what
great.
what are your thoughts on all of this, Barry?
Man, listen, I'm telling you, man, listen. I love memorabilia. I love sports memorabilia. I'm like a kid in a candy store right now. I mean, I love this. I love the stories. I love all that stuff. And so, for me, if I had, there's so many questions I have, but I would just say, one of the things, how do I frame this? Um, I got it. What is the thing in your collection that you're looking for and haven't found yet? What's that thing that you've been like, man, I got to get that somehow, some way? Is it a signature? Is it a pop culture thing? Is it just something that's just been chewing at you for 20 years? Everyone that I know in this space always has something. It's
Most
like,
most
Well,
of the
what
stuff
we'll
that
do is we'll hold off on that until next week.
okay, good idea, because
all right,
I've got an answer. I've got a grail that I want, and
okay,
I've got something really crazy that I'd love to get, but it's going to be difficult, and it involves Aaron Judge. So we'll leave it at
Wow.
that.
really,
Yeah,
All
wow.
right. Wow.
And
Wow.
I'm
and I
trying to
have
get
some,
something. Like I
and I
had
have,
Bernie Williams on a guitar,
wow,
which is kind of
wow.
cool.
Mm.
But I want
Well,
Aaron Judge on something very Judge related. But we'll leave it at that.
all
Well,
right. So
and
go ahead, Barry.
and remind me next week because I know personally Aaron Judge's coach, and
Oh,
I think what I'll do is reach out to Mr. Lee, who's got a fascinating story on my other podcast on because he's the only African American to ever coach a Japanese Major League Baseball team in Japan.
wow.
Yeah.
Mm.
When I
Wow.
bring him on, oh my goodness, you talk about stories. And his best friend is Dusty Baker.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So I got some things for you, Jeff. I got some things for you to make it worth you.
I would love to get Dusty Baker on a Dustbuster.
Uh, it's all
Well,
possible. It's
we'll
possible.
we'll
It's
continue
possible.
this next week.
All right, guys. Awesome.
Thank you for
Thank you,
coming,
guys.
Jeff. And we'll see you next week.
Next week it is. As we
All
say,
right.
Smarter Fan Podcast.